And
That's a real stick.
Yeah.
I was just there.
Awesome.
Now I have his, you guys probably read his bio on the site. I was going to put that out there, but I'm going to use it as my aid since Brian and I are e-friends, you know, online friends, so I didn't want to forget anything. So anyway, Brian and I met because we were the last two people to talk to Victor Galloso live. So, you know, that...
Technically, first time we met was at the Pluralsight dinner at Bill.
You're right. And I looked at those pictures last night because I was looking for your videos. And I saw you, so you're right. So anyway, he's a great guy, you know, we've talked since, and just, you know, the first time we talked on Skype, it was a really, you know, sad conversation because it was about Victor, but it was a good conversation. And all of a sudden he says, well, I have one thing to ask you. And I'm like, uh-oh, okay. And he said, how come you haven't invited me to come to speak to your users? And I'm like, well, we don't have budget. And so he said, I'll fly out on my own dime. And he did. So I think he deserves a big round of applause. So I'll get to the introduction. Well, let me just do the introduction of Brian. We'll get on a little bit of housekeeping, and then, of course, you know, I've got my little video, and don't look at me that way. I'm playing with you. So Brian is Infragistics product. He is the, excuse me, I know that part off the top of my head, and I'm reading and I'm lost. Okay, he works at Infragistics as the product manager for the award-winning Net Advantage for WPF and Satellite. Okay, so that's Brian's baby. That's pretty darn good. He's XAML King, like I call him. He hosts a site called XAML.tv. So all of Victor's presentations and tutorials are on there, as well as other people that are renowned with using XAML. I think the last one was posted by Pete Brown. So, he also is an author for Pluralsight, he runs his own user group there in Boise. And he is the original author of the extended WPF toolkit. So we have a very smart brain on that dude guy here tonight. So let's go over some of the housekeeping items here. You guys noticed when I started this user group, I started handing these out, and then it needed refinement, and I didn't have time, and I finally got around to refining it. So I want to continue to do things like this more often, because this is your user group, okay? So on your blue page, you have a bunch of different topics that you might be interested in having a presenter come and speak on. There's also an area to write anything else topic-wise that I might have omitted that you would like to hear about. And I would, you know, speak up, because I'll try to get speakers, you know, on whatever you want to hear about, because, you know, this is your group. So there's pencils where the little mini brains are, and to use to fill this out. You can fill it out during the break, or, you know, before we begin or after, whatever, and just leave them laying around. I'll pick them up, okay? The yellow piece now, these are optional, additional kind of activities. I know we've kind of gotten off to a slow start with my broken foot and everything, which, by the way, is still broken. So I had a fun trip to the emergency room at my son's freshman orientation at UCSB. But we do now know how to fix it, so that's the best news in the world. So anyway, pair programming, I don't know if you guys have ever done that. I love pair programming, but there's also a place for your suggestions, okay? I think some of these things would be be fun to do, but that's my opinion, so give me yours, okay? On the orange page is a place for you to put any particular speaker that you would like to hear. And don't be intimidated. If you want to say Scott Guthrie, say Scott Guthrie, okay? Because I'll try to get Scott Guthrie here. You know, like I said last time, I tried to get Stephen Sinofsky here, and I got an answer. But next time I'm in town, well, I haven't heard from him since, but he was nice enough to answer. And then there's some volunteer opportunities on there. So in addition to that, I could use help taking the recordings of the meetings that we do and putting them online, because I have such a backlog that with everything else, it's just hard to, you know, get it in the right format, get it online, tell everybody about it. So I could use help there too. And then the next 2 pages are green, and the one that's correct is the second one. I didn't know last night which way it was going to work out, so I included them both. So basically, we are booked actually now. Our first opening is February. And one thing that somebody was mentioning is it's not a good idea to tell everybody about it that much in advance. So how many people agree with that? It's good to have? So the majority thinks it's good. Because what I was told is that, let's say I have somebody scheduled and then they have to cancel, and there's 20 people already signed up for it, you know, then they get disappointed in the user group and yada yada, so I don't want that to happen. So if it starts to happen, just let me know, okay? I put the people there because to remind me that I've got somebody for that month, because I actually accidentally double booked. I still have to figure out September. But we do have speakers up until our next slot is January.
One comment, your notice that when I was there, it said there was a change in the meeting. I thought it was late meeting. Oh no, I gotta check it.
What was that?
You said on the notice a change in the meetup.
You know,
And it came out as a change in the meetup for London before.
I saw that. That came too. I did not send that out. Yeah, and I was wondering, you know, what mistake I made on Meetup or what the heck happened, because
No, it's by default on Meetup, when you join a group, it's checked to say email me whenever any of the events change. So if it's already in there and you change it, it emails everybody. Yeah, it's just automatic on Meetup.
but it was like a few days ago, and it said your Meetup, vNextOC County is meeting tonight, and it was for the past meeting.
Oh, that's weird.
And I'm like, oh great, that's nice. Now, I hope nobody shows up. So, you know, I'm still working with Meetup, trying to figure out those weird little things, but just look at the Meetup site, because whatever's on there is real. So we've got some exciting speakers coming up here. So the second one's right. We're going to be playing with Surface tablets with the CEO of Internology, and Brett Statham is going to take January. And then the last page here, these are just the prizes for the night, so you can look it over, okay? And again, here's the big brain on Brian. There, and I just watched Pulp Fiction the other night, so that's on my head. Now, in your bag, again, we have this wonderful $500 off Visual Studio Live in Redmond. So if you know of people that would like to go or are going to go, all you have to do is give them that product code on there and they can use it too. Okay? They don't need a piece of paper. And again, in your bag, you'll have one of these. This is $300 off for the Dev Connections conference in Vegas.
If you're going, let me know, because I'm going there too. We can meet up or something.
Well, you know what we're doing as a group? I found a way to get 3 nights, 4 days in a hotel in Vegas, and it's not at the Domes, for $99. And you can't go as a group. It's a promotion, and we have somebody, Jane Chen, is organizing, who wants to go, because we want to make it during the convention, so even if we can't go to the sessions, we can party. And I will let you know, because I really want to go. So, now, the other thing is in your bag, you have these little glow sticks, and I gave you guys these glow sticks last time. Nobody knew how to open them. I guess you guys don't have kids or you're not mothers, right? I saw you guys fumble on them. So what you do is you just crack it all over the place, and then it starts glowing, okay? This is how you do a glow stick. So, now I want to explain the theme of the night. The theme of the night is a combination of Americana, red, white, and blue. And that is because Brian was an Army infantryman, and after that he served in his local police department. So he's very American man next door. And then the second thing is that the brain, when I first posted it on Meetup, I spelled his name Brain. And so he said, Kim, I'd like to be Brian Lagunas, but that's not how you spell my name. So anyway, it's also brain themed. So so that's all the announcements for tonight. One thing I did want to give to you right now before we begin, Brian, since you and I were the last two to talk to Victor alive, is this bag here. And now, I hate to say it, it's used.
That's fine.
But Merrick wore it to Victor's final tribute.
Okay.
So it's the final tribute T-shirt to Victor and LA Slug.
Appreciate that.
Yes. And then one other thing I'd like to show out of your bag, if you don't mind sharing this. To open that up.
Nice.
Awesome. So that's never going to lose.
Here, I gotta get this in the video, right?
Yeah. Yeah, get a picture of that. Okay, thank you. I'll put it back for you. So we're ready for the little introduction. I wanted to, this won't take long. I know sometimes these feel like they're 20 minutes long, but this is 3 minutes. So, I love your computer. It's tolerate. my user group tolerate. So you guys are good guys. Okay, so now with that, we will have Brian Lagunas come speak on Prism, and I want to say to you, Brian, thank you for serving our country.
Thank you. All right, who's ready to learn about Prism? Yeah! Prism! Yes! Yeah! So, every user group I go to, I start a competition. Like, who's like the most excited about the talk, right? So you gotta like give me your excited face, right? And then the winner is gonna get a prize. So ready? 1, 2, 3, excited face. 1, 2, 3, go! Yeah! Awesome. You guys, you want a second chance because you will not win without me. It's not gonna happen. I mean, if you want a second chance, I'll give you one, but you can go with this.
Second chance.
Okay, second chance. One more time. Here we go.
All right, ready, guys? Let's show them what vNext does.
1, 2, 3. Excited face. There we go. That's a little better. Some of those guys in Kentucky, they're pretty good.
Did you get Tim and I also, or just that?
I got hurt like hand. Hand was in. You know, but it was an exciting hand.
Yeah, it was very exciting.
Okay, let's start my awesome slideshow. So my name is Brian Lagunas. I'm the product manager for Infragistics, and I manage the Silverlight and WPF, soon to be Windows RT line of business control. So it's all XAML, right? Where's my XAML guys at? You know what? We're gonna hang out later. I like you already. Okay, who here has even dabbled in XAML a little bit? Okay, good. Where's all the web guys? Web people. All right. It's just like the same thing, right? Markup. Just forget the JavaScript, CSS, and all that client-side stuff you have to worry about. Okay. I mean, Kim really covered a lot about me, really. So, original author, extended WPF toolkit. Who's heard of that? The extended WPF toolkit on CodePlex. What'd you think about it? It's good. It's awesome, man. Awesome. I no longer own that now, though. I gave it up. Worked for a bigger toolkit, if you will.
Yeah, you do.
Much bigger toolkit. Also an author for Pluralsight. Who here has heard of Pluralsight? Great. So after this talk, you can go watch my course on Prism at Pluralsight. So today I'm going to be talking about Prism. Who here has heard of Prism? Who can tell me what it is? Anybody, go. Awkward silence.
Composition framework.
What's that mean? What's composition framework mean?
For deployment, for separating the concerns, the modules.
Okay, separation of concerns.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then easier deployment and actually structured deployment.
Okay.
On
That's
the
good.
fly.
Loosely coupled.
Yeah.
Loosely coupling. Okay. Yeah. So Prism is a framework. It came out of the Microsoft Patterns and Practices department. At the time, it was headed up by Carl Shipley, a good friend of mine. You guys have heard of him?
I had a training with him.
Oh, you had training with him?
Yes, in LAX.
Oh,
2 days.
Which one was that?
2008 or 2009.
Okay,
LAX.
great. Yeah, so basically it's a composition framework. So what's that mean? It allows you to build loosely coupled applications that are composed at runtime, meaning that your dependencies may not be known until the application actually runs. Right, so you get your separation of concerns, you get maintainability, you get custom deployment patterns. You know, there's lots of benefits to that. So, the best way I can try to describe this, I have 2 slides. Okay, that's it. And I only put the 2 slides in here because someone says, "Man, I really wish you had some slides to discuss that." Okay, so here's slide number 1. Normally when you create an application from within Visual Studio, you're within Visual Studio, you have a solution right there in your Solution Explorer, then you have your main project. And within that main project, you have this monolithic type application structure, where you have all your views and all the code that have all the concerns wrapped up in that one project. Now, I don't mean like you have like a utility project or anything like that you might reference, you know, that's not what I mean. I mean like the main concerns and the major functional areas of your application are all rolled up into maybe some subfolders or some kind of hierarchy you do. But what Prism does, it allows you to identify those major functional areas of your application and break them out into separate what's called modules. So we're going to go over a lot of concepts tonight. And one of those is called a module. So if you're looking at from within Visual Studio, right, now you have a solution. You have your main project, which all it contains is a shell. Who can guess what a shell is?
Okay. Master page, kind of.
Just like a master page. You just put some regions in there and you say, one day something's going to be stuck in here and displayed to the user. I don't know what it is right now, but it's going to be here. Then you start identifying parts of your application that may exist on their own or may not. It doesn't matter. But those actually turn into their own Visual Studio projects, their own separate DLLs, their own assemblies, okay? And keep in mind that these can be dependent on each other. So Module 2 can be dependent on Module 1 and all this crazy stuff, right? But the main concept is we're separating these major functional areas, we're separating these concerns, and whenever I say go, we're going to inject them at runtime. Just like that. Pretty easy, huh? Any questions on that concept of modularity and view composition?
How about sharing resources?
Sharing resources, you would have an infrastructure type project or maybe a services project that each of your modules would reference. But for the most part, you don't want your modules referencing each other unless they're dependent. And you definitely never want your shell to hard reference any project. Okay?
Just wanted to make sure we are still within one solution. We are not going.
You're
cross
still
solution.
within one solution. You don't have to be. You don't have to be because the shell, it doesn't care where these DLLs come from. It just has to know, and we'll get into this when we start. We're actually going to build an app today. This is how easy Prism is. It's ridiculous. Okay. You'll see how you can just drop a DLL into a directory and it will just, ooh, I found something. Cool, let me show it.
No, but still, that DLL needs to be within the solution.
It doesn't need to be.
Oh,
It doesn't need to be.
Oh, okay.
Now, when you're developing it, it might make it easier, especially to have shared resources like you're talking about. You might be easier that way, but they do not have to be because you will have no reference to that main project. And the main project will have no reference to any of those projects.
Is Prism specific to like WPF?
It's specific to WPF, Silverlight, and Windows Phone
Okay.
for now. When the Windows 8-bit comes out, we'll see. Okay? Okay, talk's over. Have a nice day, everybody. Yeah.
So I had a question. I've worked with Prism, but I didn't really much know about it. I had this device, classes device that I exported and I imported in another project. And that device used a XML file. And that XML file was in one of my projects, but would I be able to access it when I export it? Would I have the XML file with the DLL library that I exported?
I don't know if I completely understand, but if you're looking for it as in like an embedded resource in the DLL,
Exactly.
if you didn't put it in there, then no. I mean, your resources have to be with the project itself,
Okay.
unless it's actually referenced and just in the directory.
So the solution would be to create a project and have all the other projects reference it?
That's one way. Another way, and we'll get into this. We'll get into that when we get there. Okay, let's write a Prism application. A really easy one. So I do have my backup because I like to fat finger things. Right? So when I start fat fingering, I'll switch over. But for now, I'm going to attempt to write live code. Should I pray to the demo gods now or later?
Yeah.
So I'm more of a WPF person, so I'm going to create a WPF application. But a lot of what you see is going to be the exact same for Silverlight, just some minor differences. And I'll just call this demo. Here's what I call it. Now, I want to mention my talks are very unstructured. Okay, I go off on tangents. I just talk until someone tells me to shut up. So if you don't tell me to shut up, we're going to be here all night long. I just go crazy with it.
That's the presentation. It's ad hoc.
Okay. So the first thing I always do when I create a Prism app is I like to delete stuff. I like to delete that main window. I like to come in my app.xaml, and I like to get rid of that startup URI. So, XAML person, tell me what the startup URI does.
Finds the page that you're gonna first load.
Exactly. Well, I don't have a page to load now, so I had to get rid of it. But I will eventually need that shell we talked about, right? We need that template. We need that master page. So I'm going to go ahead and create one of those. I'm just going to stub it out. Let's add a new window. Because this is WF, I'm going to use a window, not a page. I'm going to call mine shell. You don't have to. You could use main window if you want, but I just want to illustrate exactly what's going on here. Okay, so now I have a shell, and that's all I care about right now. Let's go ahead and add some references. Then I'm going to add some references to the Prism framework. I'm going to add 3 references as soon as my reference dialog loads. Microsoft patterns, here we go. So on Microsoft.practices.prism, Unity extensions and Unity. These are the only 3 I care about in my shell. Okay, so I'm going to introduce another concept. And it's actually a very common concept with any really application. It's called a bootstrapper. Who's heard that term before? Who has not heard the term of a bootstrapper? Okay. So tell me what a bootstrapper is while I type this.
Something to initiate the load, to decide what to load first and how to resolve the dependencies.
Exactly. Right on. So basically, we're changing the entry point of our application. Where we took the responsibility off the startup URI, and now we're going to make that responsibility the bootstrapper.
It's like a boot manager in Windows.
Just like that. Or who's used the application updater block from Enterprise Library? It's kind of the same thing. You have a little bootstrapper app that runs, that launches the app, checks for new versions, right? Same concept.
Just have a question.
Yeah.
You added 3 references and you added the Unity framework. Is there a reason to go with Unity versus the...
Yeah, I'm going to get to that right now.
Because Prism is using Unity, so he has no choice.
Oh, you have a choice.
You have a choice?
You always have a choice.
Prism has a separate offer.
Okay, so the bootstrapper. Prism, out of the box, comes with 2. Before I get into that, I need to mention Prism uses very heavily IOC and dependency injection. So that means you need a container. Who does not know what that is? Really? Nobody? Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. Okay, so basically, inversion of control is just a concept. Dependency injection is a mechanism in which creates, you ask for something and it will give it to you, right? So instead of going object equals, or person equals new person, right? The new keyword, you're doing something up, you would just ask the container for, give me a person, and it will just give you one, right? It's just like a dictionary of types that will just be given to you on your demands. It's awesome. So, Prism gives you 2 containers, Unity and Meth. I will never use Meth. Never, never.
Really? Why?
Why? Because Meth is not an IOC container. If you disagree with me, I would love to have a conversation with you about it. It does IOC type things, but it is not an IOC container. Okay? Unity is an IOC container, but you don't have to use Unity. I actually prefer structure map. Okay? The thing about Prism is very flexible. You can extend it as far as you want. So you can actually create your own bootstrapper base class and use whatever, inject, spring.net, it doesn't matter. Whatever your flavor, you can use it. So the way I like to explain the difference between Unity and Meth is you have Unity resolving known types, right? You do your registrations. You have internal knowledge of the working system. Meth is all about external, third-party extensions, kind of like how Visual Studio was built.
Plugin API, right?
The plugin API. So technically, they can work together. You can have Unity Bootstrapper, but integrate Meth into that if you have extension points. So just think Unity internal, Meth external plugin architecture, just like Visual Studio. So that means I need a Unity strapper. See if the strap figure all like that.
What's the name of the other items?
Structure map.
Meth. Oh, structure map?
Yeah. And it's on plural side.
What's that?
There is a talk about inversion
Yes.
of control. They talk about structure map.
Yeah, so lots of good material on Portal site, and at the end of this, don't let me forget, because I don't want to be a spoiler, but I am going to hook you guys up, every one of you.
Nice guy.
So I've been told.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Brian.
So Unity Bootstrapper, as you can see, this is an abstract class, so I have an abstract member to implement. It's called Create Shell. Create Shell. Sounds pretty simple. I'm basically going to ask my container to resolve an instance of my shell for me. So I'm going to return container, which is a property in the base class. Now you see I don't have resolve of type T, but I will in a minute when I add my using statement. Using Microsoft practices. So basically, all I'm saying is, whenever this method is run, whenever it's asking to create this shell, I'm saying, hey container, why don't you go ahead and create this for me whenever it wants it. And you see shell of type T is actually the concrete type of my shell view. Okay. All right, so we also need to do one more thing, but I don't want to type all this. So this is where I copy and paste. You need to override the initialize shell method. This is basically going to run any code that you need to initialize your shell. In this sample, it's pretty straightforward. Setting, because I'm in WPF, I'm getting the current application's main window and setting it to the instance of the shell. Now there's a difference here. You see shell up here and shell down here. Shell is actually a property on the base here, okay? That's a property, that's a type, right? Just so there's no confusion here. That's the property. It's not the same thing. Now you're saying, oh, Brian, why are you casting that to a window? It's already a window. Well, that's true, it's already a window, but the property is a type dependency object. Now, why isn't that a type window? Why is my shell property a dependency object? Any guesses? Thinking wolf.
So it can be replaced by some other later on. It can be swapped.
Yeah, basically, because Prism is multi-platform. Silverlight doesn't have a window. Windows Phone doesn't have a window. Their shells are going to be something different. Okay, so that's why that's there. And then we just call shell. So if I run this, what's going to happen?
Using a blank window.
Am I getting a blank window?
Well, right, because it's going to call your base shell.
You didn't configure your dependency injection, right?
Well, actually, Unity Bootstrapper does that for me.
But
it handles all that.
the create shell function that you created right there should set the property shell to container resolve shell.
Right, but there's one more step we have to do.
Say run somewhere, right?
We have to tell the application about our Bootstrapper.
Oh.
We never did that. So we got to go to our app.xaml.cs file, and we're going to override the on startup method here. And I'm going to say var bs. Yeah, I said it. New Bootstrapper. Run my bs. Okay, so now my application knows about it. So now the expectation is I should get a blank window. Oh, there it is, it worked. Thank you, demo gods. All right, that's pretty impressive, I know. Decades of learning how to program.
There are different ways to get it to some place, right?
So no more hello world.
No more hello world.
It's obsolete.
Obsolete. That's so much cooler than hello world. It's just a blank page. Okay. So next thing we need to do is we need to define a region. We need to identify an area in our shell, or multiple areas depending on your application, where we're going to say, hey, I'm going to put some stuff in here, and I need you to hold it for me. So that's where I have to open up my view. Now this can be as complex or as simple as you want. Our examples can be very simple, but I'll show you a little more complex, more realistic layout. Okay, our examples can have one region. Now, there's a concept called a region adapter. This is a lower level thing that you really don't see. What it does is it adapts an element to host content. Okay, because you can't just put any content in a control. I can't say, hey, I'm going to use a combo box and just stick some views in it. Well, you can, but not out of the box. Right? So Prism provides you with, like, I'm trying to think, 3 region adapters out of the box for WPF and 4 for Silverlight. It's because of the tab control doesn't derive from selector in Silverlight. But basically, a content region adapter, meaning you can use any content control as a region, like a content presenter or content control, right? An items control, so like a list box, right, when you have multiple items. And a selector in WPF, and then of course in Silverlight you have the separate tab item control. In this case, it'll be very simple. I'm going to use a content control. As my hosting element, right? But I need to identify this as a region. I got to tell this control, this element, my visual tree, hey, you're going to host some content. I don't know what it is, but I want to give it to you. You need to do it. XML and S, Prism. So I need to add a namespace. So for those of you who aren't familiar with XAML, who can tell me, someone who is familiar with XAML, tell those people what a namespace is.
Like a reference.
It's like a reference. You know how you have a using in your C# file? It's like a using in XAML. It's just like that. So, I believe it's www.codeplex.com. Yep. I think my memory didn't fail me. So I'm going to use what's called an attached property. Region manager, region name. What should we name this? Main content, main region, what? Main region? Will that work for you guys? Main region. So basically, this is all it takes to say I'm using this element to host content. That's it. I'm done with this. I can close it. I don't care about it. Now, I would like to mention, when you write real applications, don't use magic strings. You create an infrastructure project, which would contain a lot of your constants and global type classes, and use your static markup extension. That way you get compile time, checking, and all that stuff, right? So no magic strings, because they get real ugly. Cool, done with that. Now we need a module. Now here's a little trick. So a module is just another project type, right? It doesn't matter what it is. But when you add a new project, you might think, oh, I'm going to add a class library. Yeah, that's fine. You can do that. So let me show you what happens when you do that. Yeah, I can go in here and start hooking up my module, doing all my code and stuff like that. But because I created a class library, when I right-click to go add new items, look at my choices. Windows form, a Windows user control, Windows component. That's not going to do me any good in XAML application. Right? So don't do that. Let's get rid of this guy. I don't care about him. What I like to add is actually a WPF user control library. I'll call it module A. That works. And I'll just delete that guy. So now when I right click on my module, I get a window, a page, user control, resource dictionary, the stuff I care about as a XAML developer. Okay? Just a neat little hint there. And This is just my OCD here. I'm like weird. You gotta have things like compartmentalized. Your brain is just like that. Okay, so I have a module. That means I've identified some major functional area in my application. I identified it. I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to have a team start working on that module. The first thing that team needs to do is it needs to add some references. I just opened this. You would think it would remember every time what references were already there. Precinct. All I need is Prism and Unity. I need to add a class. In this class, I'm going to call module a module. Make sure you make this public or you will have issues. And you might just spend 2 hours looking for why you're having issues. So there's an interface that this class needs to implement in order for Prism to know that you're going to specify this as a module. It's a very complex interface. So difficult. It's called iModule.
Is that like IMO?
Yeah. And it's very complicated to implement because you have to implement one method. Okay, we have a module. That's all it took. But what do we need to do now? We have a module. We have a shell. There's something missing there. What do I need to do?
Hook up to the shell.
I need to let the shell know. I need to let the bootstrapper know where to find my modules. Now there's lots of ways to do this. You can do it by adding a direct reference to the shell, which is okay, right? I've done it before. You might do that if you have a module that's like an admin module you want to write code against that says, hey, if this person has these type of 80 directories, they can load these modules and whatever, right? Whatever the case may be. For the most part, you do not want to add a direct reference from your shell to any module, because now you're creating that tight coupling, right? And if you're doing click once, you can't just release one module. The whole freaking thing's going to be downloaded. It defeats the whole purpose, right? So, in that case, you can load from an app.config file, a XAML file, directory scanning, encode, and download from the web. Lots of choices. For this purpose, I'm going to do what I told you not to do. I'm going to add a hard reference. Because you don't want to be here all night while you configure everything. So now,
Can I just tell the bootstrapper what the current directory and stuff?
oh, you can. Just keep in mind that when you do that and you're debugging, you have to go and put post-compiler scripts in your modules so they copy the DLLs to the correct location to the correct directory. And I don't want to spend all the time doing this, so we'll just do it this way. So I'm just gonna.
And when you deploy for real, it's even different, right? Because it should be downloaded from some URL.
It can be. Yes. Unless it's packaged up with your installer. Okay. So there's a method in your bootstrapper called create module catalog. In this case, I'm just doing it in code. This guy's saying module catalog. I'm adding a catalog of type module a module, which is misspelled. Now notice, this module a module, this is the class that implements iModule. Now, my bootstrapper knows, hey, I have a module to load. So now it knows. So I'm going to leave this code here, because the expectation is that when I run this, I should hit this spot and it should crash, because it means my module is loaded. If we don't get an error, then I did something wrong. There, we got it. So that means my module has been initialized. So we'll stop this.
Yep, I know.
Cool. Now we need a view for our module. I'm going to add a new user control. Call it view A. This view is going to be really complex because I like to make things complicated. Okay, here's my super complicated view. It's got a button in it. And what we want to happen is we need to say, whenever this module loads, we're going to inject this at runtime into that region that's in the shell. So I'm done with this guy. Now there's a couple ways to do that. This is what we're getting to what's called view composition. How we're composing our views within our Prism application. You have two methods: view discovery and view injection. View discovery says, hey, I'm going to register this type with my region, and whenever my region's ready, just go ahead and create it and load it, and I don't care. Just whenever you're ready, you handle it for me, I don't care. View injection says, don't you do a damn thing until I tell you to. Okay, I'm going to create it, I'm going to initialize it, and I'm going to inject it when I feel like injecting it. Okay, so let's take a look at view discovery. I don't know. You don't sit there and watch them type those things. Should we spell this right? Good. Okay, so I'm going to copy over some code here. Let me tell you why I need it. I need my container, which we're using a Unity Bootstrapper, so it's an iUnity container. I need an instance of that container to resolve types, to create things, right? And I need my region manager so I can access regions. Now, you notice that I don't have any code that says create a new module A module class, and I'm going to pass in a new container, a new region manager, any of that stuff. There's none of that code that exists anywhere. Can anyone tell me why I don't need that code?
Dependency injection does it for you when the factory creates it.
Exactly. So remember I was talking about that the container, Unity, the container. It realizes that, hey, my constructor here is requiring these two types. I know what those are. I can create those and give those to you. And because I know it's a container and that's a manager, it's a singleton in this case, so I'm going to give you the same instance unless you specifically ask for a new one. I'm going to just give you the same one. So that means when I specified a region on my shell through the region manager attached property, the instance I get from here will have that region instance in here, and I can access that.
How does Unity knows it exactly about the region manager?
How what?
Like, I understand the Unity knows about itself, right? But how does it know where to find iRegion manager? It's just
it knows because the Unity Bootstrapper handled that for me.
Okay.
The Unity Bootstrapper Prism went ahead and registered those types. It took care of all that for me. I didn't have to wire any of that up.
If I have two objects implemented in the same interface, two classes.
You won't.
Okay, because I feel confused a lot.
If you did that, okay, let's say, normally I save this conversation until we start talking about views, but let's say you had two objects, object A, object B, implemented iObject. I registered object A first against the iObject interface, and then next I registered object B against the iObject interface.
Right.
What object is my container going to give me when I ask for iObject? Object B.
Right.
Exactly, you overrode it. So you do not register the same interface against different concrete types, because you will get the last one you just registered. Okay, and that's just an IOC. That's a container thing, right? Okay. So now we know we have our container. We're getting our manager, our region manager. And we're going to use view discovery. Whenever this initializes, I just want to shove that button right into that region. So I'm going to say manager, register view of the region. I click that, I click register view of the region. Provide my region name, which I think I called it main region. I'll double check that. And then my view type. Type of double check that. I think that was me. Maybe. See, that's why you want to have constants, so you don't have to do that. Okay. So this is view discovery. I'm saying I'm registering this type of this region name of main region. Whenever this region goes through its initialization process, it's going to say, oh, hey, I got something to show. I'm going to create it, and I'm going to stick it in there. So now the expectation is when I run this, that big fat button should be staring me in the face. Oh, it's like magic. Look how much code it took to do that. It's so complicated. Now I understand why all those people complain about Prism. It's so hard. Okay.
Well, it's one of those things where you have to sort of be initiated and understand what the heck's going on, because you could spend, if you come into a project like this without somebody to kind of hold your hand and walk you through it.
Yeah. So here's the biggest mistake everyone makes when trying to learn Prism. They look at Microsoft Patterns and Practices examples. The stock trader UI app that ships with Prism is probably the worst implementation of Prism I've ever seen. And it's not that done intentionally. I know why they did it. I've talked to the people who wrote it. It's because they show you so many different ways to use Prism in one app. Right? So there's no guidance. It's just like, hey, you can do it this way, you can do it this way, you can do it this way. You'll get those in butterflies and rainbows and unicorns. Right? It doesn't matter. Do what you want. Right? We're in the 70s again. We're free. So then you get confused because there's no guidance. There's no like, okay, how would I do this in this scenario? How would I do this in this scenario? But as you can see, it's really not simple, not hard. It's very simple, and as long as you keep that mentality, it's very simple. You just start adding complexity by adding code, right? Systems don't start off complex; they wind up complex. Okay, so we're done with view discovery. Now, imagine you're writing an app. When would be some examples of when you would want to use view discovery? Look at the behavior we just noticed.
That would be like the onboard stuff that comes up when you first run the app. So something that happens like when a certain event is triggered.
Exactly. So like you might have menu items that need to be injected, right? Menu items are perfect for view discovery. It's like the app loads, boom, it loads your menu items. Okay, view injection. View injection is, I know I explained this really well, so you guys should totally know what view injection is.
When you want something on demand.
When you want something done, you specifically control how it happens, how it's created, right?
So that has to be some sort of event dictionary that you can call from the main shell.
Oh, no. We'll get to that later. Let's just look at the concept of view injection. So first I need an object. So I'll say view equals container.resolve. Now you notice I did not say view equals new view A. I'm delegating all the creation of objects to my container. Okay, because what's going to happen is when you start really writing an application, you're going to want to do something like MVVM. Who's ever heard of that? Nobody? Yeah, not many people have. But when you want to start doing stuff like that, what's going to happen is you're going to start having dependencies in either your view model or in your view's constructor, right? And your container is going to create those for you. So it's always good. You never want to really say object equals new object. You want to say object equals container.resolve. Okay, so now I've resolved an instance of this view. Now I can say manager. Intelligence is really making better. Regions. region name. Again, magic strings, I can't stand them. And then the object.
Now, why is it resolve all as opposed to just resolve just? Because it seems like if you're, that's going to give you a whole bunch of.
Sorry.
I was thinking
Good catch.
now.
Good catch. Resolve. Okay, so now I've resolved my view. I'm getting my region, my main region from the region manager, and I'm adding the view. Right, so they clicked on a command, they clicked some button somewhere, and I'm going to run some code, initialize a view model, do security checks, I don't know, whatever you want to do. And then I'm going to add the view to the region. Right? Same result, different approach. Any questions on that? You wrote a Prism app. That's all there is to it. Now we can start getting into more details about other things. But is there any questions about what I've covered so far? No? I almost grabbed that Dr. Pepper. That was a close one. You almost lost it.
Mama?
No. I'm weird. I don't drink soda. Strange.
Oh, that's good though.
Okay. Well, I'm going to close that then. Because you guys got it. This is going to go too fast.
Not like the other guys, right?
Yeah. Where was I last? Oh, I don't remember what user group I was at last.
You're off to another one after this too, huh?
Yes, East Bay. I leave tomorrow for East Bay. Oh, well, the last user group I was at, that turned like 3 hours. Awesome.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are awesome.
Okay. Now, let me show an example. Let's get into some cool stuff. I can remember one. Okay, so Kim mentioned XAML.tv. And on XAML.tv, I started a series on creating a Prism application called IG Outlook. Now it's called IG Outlook because I work for Infragistics and I'm writing this Prism application using Infragistics controls. And I'm basically mimicking Outlook. So when you start looking at Outlook, you start breaking it down. How would I write, how would I compose this at runtime? How can I make this into a Prism app? Okay, so Outlook has our Outlook bar on the left-hand side, right, with groups. You have like mail, and contacts, and calendar. Man, those make really good modules. Completely separate from each other. They don't really care. They might have some communication, but there's no hard reference, right? So, okay, those can be my modules. I have a ribbon. It has tabs that need to be injected. Okay, so now I have a view. So now I got this problem of, okay, so I got navigation on the left. I got navigation on top, kind of more like action items. Okay, but that's in another region, and then I have this view that those need to interact with, and I got to coordinate all this stuff. That's a real example of maybe a more realistic type of application. So I've only recorded 4 parts of this so far, but what I want to point out
Hello world, here's Outlook.
is I wrote this application with a multi-target platform in mind. So I'm writing the same application for 2 different platforms using 99% of the code. So here it is in Silverlight. Now, as you see, nothing real fancy right here. I have some modules, right? Some navigation items, and right now there's no tab up top. But you start playing around with navigating around. Oh, here's my view. I get some home tab up here. So I got this tab showing, you know, I'm moving around the app, and my tabs are switching out to the context of the view that's in there, and all this stuff is starting to coordinate, right? So that's the main thing behind that. Now we'll start this one. WPF. What do I do? This is why you don't play with stuff.
So then you're able to use the same modules from the Silverlight?
Oh, exact same thing. Let me show you. Now, I can show you guys how to do this if you haven't done this before. So in my Silverlight, actually you can't see that. You see these classes here? These are all my like infrastructure things. These are shared across all my modules, right? So there's the source files that are on disk. Now if I come down to my WPF classes, they're the same names, but look at the icon. It's a little different. It's actually linked. Okay, I added that file to my project as a file link, meaning that is linking to the location on disk of the file in Silverlight. And all it does is compile that code into my WPF platform library. Okay? And to prove that point further, if I were to open this up in WPF and come over to Silverlight and try to open it, it's going to say this file's already open, because it is. It's open from a different project. So this is the exact same file.
There are some if then, right?
Yes, so, yeah, I just go off on tangents. We can do this all night. So let's say you have a platform difference, right? Something's different in Silverlight. The Bootstrapper is a great example of this. Remember I was talking about how you have a shell, the dependency object, page, all that cool stuff, right? So you can add compiler directives that say, hey, if you're running in Silverlight, you're going to say the application current root visual is the shell, which is in this case is a page. But if you're in WPF, you're using the main window syntax and you're using a window, right? But you can see, since I opened this in Silverlight, this code is active. It gets compiled, and you get your error checking and all that here. If I were to close this, and pay attention to the coloring, if I close that, and come to WPF, the difference. Now the Silverlight code is grayed out, doesn't apply, and now I get all my runtime checking, compile time checking here. This is the code that gets compiled. So that's how you handle your differences. Now, I'm waiting for a question. I'm not going to say anything until I get a question.
Well, to me, this doesn't look like IOC. To me, this looks like you're not following the IOC pattern, because you should have a factory that returns one for something.
IOC is not factory.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, but the inversion pattern.
No, so shell is a property. This is just setting your root visual of Silverlight or the main window. We're not doing anything up. That's where IOC is, version of control, right? We're not creating objects here. Yes. There's my container resolving. That's IOC here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a question?
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you didn't use the shared assemblies?
That's what I was waiting for, the portable libraries.
Yeah, new ones, right?
Right? Yeah, because they suck. So when you're writing simple applications, they're all right. But chances are, it's so much easier to have control of what's compiled in WPF and Silverlight than trying to know what's shared between them. Right? It's just harder. And this is just easier. Someone might have a better experience than I did. That's just my experience. Okay. So the reason I was showing this is because we have these different concerns we have to worry about. And we're going to cover how we solve these. The first one we're going to talk about is communication. Okay? Commands. Right? So whenever I click a button, something happens. We're going to talk about event aggregation, sending messages out, listening to these messages. Okay? So for example, I click on this button, I navigated to this view via a command. But I also sent out an event aggregation that communicated that I would change the title, but you don't see that because it's not WPF. But when you start talking about communicating between loose and coupled components, that's a challenge, you know. So, where did I put those?
Question is, for that communication, are you using MVVM Lite or something like that?
No. I've never, ever had the need to use an MVVM library at all, because MVVM is not that hard. The core of MVVM is set your data context to a class and data bind. It's not that complicated. Okay, so let's talk about commands. Who in XAML land can give me your interpretation of what a command is and when you would use one?
We always use them for button handlers, essentially. So it gives you the option to say, define some kind of can execute for the command on the iCommand interface, and then you have some kind of delegate that runs afterwards.
And it's reusable piece of code. That's what this.
Yeah.
So you can get away from even hundreds because you should have as less as possible.
Right. Okay, so I'll digress a little bit to MVVM. Who in here believes in MVVM you should have absolutely no code behind? You're like a total purist. And if you see like one line code behind, you're like freaking out. Is that you? We can have a talk later. Code behind is okay.
Yes.
Be pragmatic, because you will never write a production application that will not have code behind. It's not going to happen.
I treat it like sort of like SQL normalization. You normalize until it hurts and you back off a bit. But use MVVM until it hurts and you back off a bit.
Yeah, so with separation concerns comes complexity, right? And there's no silver bullet. But the only important thing to realize with MVVM and code behind is just don't reference objects or concrete types. Have that for your view model. But anything that's view related, grid events, click events, it's fine. Just call them off the view model, off the interface of the view model. Don't say code behind, person, new person, add to data source on the view model. No, just don't do that. And you're okay. You don't lose any of your testability or anything. You're fine. Okay, so we're going to talk about commands here. And I don't care about that. This is what I care about. So let's look at the app first, and we'll talk about how it's behaving. Okay, so here I have a simple form, first name, last name, age, and a button. And as you were alluding to, a command is basically provides two mechanisms. Okay, it's off an iCommand interface. You have a can execute, which says you are allowed to invoke this command, and if you're not allowed to, I'm going to go ahead and handle that UI state for you. You don't have to worry about it. I'll disable it. Don't worry, I got you, brother. I got you, right? And then it has an execute that says, if you're allowed to execute this, I'll go ahead and run this code. So here, I believe if I am under 18, I have an error, and my error says, oh, I'm under 18, I can't save this. That immediately disabled itself because the can't execute returned false. Now, of course, I'm 19, I'm allowed to do that, I can save, and the last updated, we're good. Okay, that's pretty cool. So how did that work? Let's start by looking at the view. That button is bound to a command. It's an iCommand implementation. Okay, it's called save command, and it exists on my view model. It's also passing a parameter of the person object being edited. Okay, and the property name is person. Any questions there? Because we're basically done with that. Now let's go look at the command. Prism has a concept of what's called a delegate command. Who's heard that term? Okay, what is it?
You define a delegate for both the can execute and the execute.
Exactly. So who's heard the term relay command? Right? It's the same thing. It's just a different name. It's returning true, meaning I'm allowed to invoke that command. And when it invokes, I'm just adding some person's age to the current years, right? Whatever, right? I'm just setting that property. And that's all that's happening here. But I'm going to comment this out. Okay, so does everyone understand the concept of what's happening here? Let me not comment this out yet. Okay, so we have this can save, right? It checked right away, and it's going to check a couple times. Now when I change this value, I'll make it a valid value. We're going to check this. Can I save it? Yes, I can. Okay, cool. I'm going to click that. Save executes. My person saved, and we're checking our can save again. We're checking our state. Any questions on that?
Just one real quick thing, just in semantics, because I haven't worked with this one before. The dot property change is when exposed by the interface, the person underscore property change.
Yes.
Delegate.
Yes, I'm about to cover that right now. Now, the thing with delegate commands is, who's heard of a routed command in WPF? So, routed commands are handled by the .NET framework, and it will run the can execute for you automatically. Right? Anytime you run over a button, whatever, it's going to keep checking that can execute on your command if you're bound to a button. It's really annoying, because what happens when you need to hit the database to check permissions or check something? You know how many database calls you're hitting there? Your UI is going to be sluggish, it's not going to be fun. Now, the good thing is, other iCommand implementations such as relay command or delegate command, they don't suffer from that problem. But that means you have to specifically say when to check the can execute. So if I comment that property changed out, if I'm not listening to the property change of the person, and I start changing values, well, I have an error, but my UI state didn't update. Right? If I click this, it still doesn't execute. Right? That's good, but my UI doesn't reflect that. And that's because we're not raising the can't execute change event for the UI. So, keep in mind this is demo code, this is what you would normally do. Just don't update my samples. I always get this, so I'm just going to put it here now. There. Don't yell at me. Any questions? There. Now really don't yell at me. Okay, so what we're doing is my rule is saying anytime a value changes on this person object, I want to raise that can execute event to see if I can save that person. So whenever I'm assigned, whenever this instance is assigned a value, I'm going to hook it to its property change. Now why am I checking before it's assigned?
You need to release the previous one.
Yeah, so you don't get a whole bunch of things subscribed to it.
Yeah, we don't want memory leaks. So if this person property gets changed to another instance of a person, we're going to go ahead and unsubscribe so we don't have anything floating around and have weird memory leaks happen, okay? So if you come down here, you say, okay, in the property change event handler, save command that raise can execute change. So every time a property changes to that person, we're going to go ahead and recall can execute change or can execute. That way, our UI is properly notified, like that. Okay, cool. Command, simple.
Question.
Yeah.
And the last calling on property change with the name of the properties of who are you calling here?
This is the implementation of the iNotify property change interface, which is just very simple. That's all it is.
No, but what I'm saying is if you're calling, you are in charge of calling it, right?
Yes.
You calling it. So why do you need to subscribe to the event on that person class?
Because this is on the view model. So when I'm editing on the form, I'm editing against this instance. Right? That's what I'm editing against. So I need to know when a property changes on that instance, not the view model of that object. So that's why that's there. Okay. Command's pretty simple, right? Composite commands. These are really fun. Have you ever had the need for a save all button? Right? Hit save all and multiple instances of some object is saved. Nobody needs that? Dang. Almost very complicated stuff. So let's run this. Look at the app, and we'll talk about the composite command. So this is the same form we just had. I just created multiple instances of it and stuck it inside an items control represented by tags. So pay attention as I change each individual command. Okay, so I have a save all button up here. I'm going to let you know it's bound to a composite command. I know you don't really know what that is yet, but just keep in mind it's bound to a composite command. Okay, well, I can save this guy. He's savable. Okay, let me go to this guy. Okay, he's savable, but save all is still kind of weird. Now I can click save all, and all three of those objects are saved. Pretty cool, huh? Let's check it out. The first thing we need to look at, we need to talk about what a composite command is and how it works. Basically, a composite command is a collection of other commands, of iCommand implementations, that gets checked when you tell it to get checked. It's like commanding on crack, right? It's like on steroids. It's just pumped up. You know, feed me with all the commands you want, and I'm going to take care of it all. The way it works is you register commands with your composite command, represented by public static composite command name new composite command. It doesn't have to be static. It doesn't have to be global. Right? It can exist within a module. But when you register your command, whenever the logic is run for composite command, it loops through every command that's registered in the order it was registered. And it checks each one's can save return value. Right? So it calls can save on all the registered commands.
So, I wonder, the composite command, this lives in your module, right?
It can live wherever you want it to live.
Okay.
In this case, I said, hey, this is a global command that any module I ever create is going to use, so I'm going to make it global. Okay? It can be in the module itself, it's nothing else that's going to use it.
Well, I guess, because I was worried, if you put it in the module, let's say, like in your example, you have 3 versions of the same module in there, like what is that?
It's not 3 versions of the same module.
Oh, it's 3 instances.
It's just 3 instances of that form.
Yeah.
All from the same module. They're all in the same module. So we'll get to that. It's a little confusing. Okay, so it loops through every single one of those can executes, and if any one of those returns false, its can execute will return false, and it will remain inoperable. You can't click on it. Once they all return true, oh great, I'm enabled. You can invoke me. You invoke the command, the composite command, and then it goes through each registered command's execute method and executes that. And then all the code runs for those in the order in which they were registered. So let's go look at the complicated code we had to add to what we just had to get that to work. And I'll go to clarify for you in the people module. You see this view, that iPerson view? In the first example, we only created 1. I'm creating 3 view models, well, views, because this is view model first, and it's confusing. And then I'm adding them to the region. Okay, so I'm just creating 3 instances of that view. So let's go to the view model. So this is the exact same view model we just looked at. There's only one difference here. Is that static command I created? Which remember, it doesn't have to be static, it's just how I chose to do it in this example. I'm registering the save command we already created previously. And the rest is the same.
So each view self-registers.
What's that?
So each view self-registers itself with that command, static command.
Yeah, so each instance of this view model is created, it registers on that command. So I have 3 instances of this view model running, so you have 3 different subscribers basically registered on this command. So all three will be executed. Okay. That's a composite command. Any questions on that?
But it's useless.
Is it useless?
Yeah, because if you, the whole point of save all, it doesn't mean that you have to really force user to edit all 100 contacts in your, Outlook or whatever, right? You edit 5 of them and you still want save all to execute. So I think then you have to re-engineer the solution to actually only enlist those 5.
That's on your implementation of can execute.
No. It's how many views you should enlist in your static thing. That should do. You know what I'm saying? If you have 100 items open in your items list, and you add user edited just 5 of them, you still want user save all of the 5.
But if they're not dirty, why would they be saved?
No, all the 5 dirty.
Oh,
and
yeah.
out of the 100.
Well, that would be fine. They would all save.
No, because you said the save all will only execute when all the views registered, which
Are savable. When all the can executes return true, which you control.
I know, but then, okay, but if you have not dirty, 95 of them are not dirty,
95 of them.
Then execute is false, right?
It depends on what your rules say.
That's what I'm saying. So you have to engineer your thing for your need, right?
Exactly.
Right.
It may not. You just may not have a can. You might not check it. You might just say you can always do it. It doesn't matter. Just save in my code to try to save it. Right? It's your rules. It's how you say it should be implemented. Okay.
Excuse me, can this be implemented for 2 or 3 different canvases?
Can what?
Right now I'm developing a 2D environment for using WPF. And I have 4 different tabs. One tab is assembly diagram, one is wire diagram, one is schematic diagram.
Yep.
So every time user I modify one of the scopes, let's say one of the canvases. Can I apply this to every single canvas and change modification of those recent changes?
Yeah. Yeah, you just register your command for the view model. It doesn't matter.
So this works for every single.
It doesn't matter. You just register what you want to be registered with the composite command, and in your can execute, you tell it how to handle it. Okay. Cool. Event aggregation. So event aggregation is a whole pattern by itself, but it's basically pretty simple. It's an event that's based on a publisher and subscriber. Someone's going to say, here's an event. I don't care. I'm just going to throw it out there, right? It's kind of like when you go to a wedding and the person has a bouquet and they go behind them, and whoever is out there listening for it will get the message, right? And those are your subscribers. So let's run this, check it out, and then we'll look at the code. So here's that very complicated form we looked at already 100 times. We're going to make it valid. I'm going to hit save and watch the status bar at the bottom. Let's add a breakpoint here. Okay. It was updated, but I didn't use a command to update that. I want to point out that we have 3 modules over here. The people module, which is this form. We have the status bar, which is down here. It's a separate module. And the toolbar up top. Okay, so that's one thing I forgot to point out about the composite command we just went over, is that the composite command is in the toolbar module. The toolbar and the people module have no idea about each other. They don't know that each other exists. Right? They're completely different modules, but we were still able to communicate. Okay, now event aggregation takes it to another level. Once again, the status bar has no idea about a people module. It has no idea about a toolbar module. All it knows is that I'm subscribed to an event called this, and when that event executes, I'm going to do something. Okay, and I'm expecting a payload. So let's go see how we create an event. To create the composite event, just say person updated event, whatever you call it. I call it person updated. Derives from a composite presentation event of T. T being your payload. You know what everyone knows a payload is, right? I have a message and I have a package I'm going to send with it. And whenever the subscriber listens to it, it's going to get that package, it's going to wrap it up like Christmas morning, take all the stuff out and start playing with it. Okay? In this case, it's going to be a string. It can be any object you want. So I've defined my event. So first, we need a publisher. In this case, our person view model is going to be the publisher, because when I hit save, and my person is saved, I'm going to send out the message, hey, I got saved. Now the iEvent aggregator, this is something provided by Prism. And once again, through the magic unity in IOC, in the constructor of my person view model, I'm just asking for an iEvent aggregator, and Unity's going to give me one. It's going to give me the same message as a singleton. Right? I'm just going to store it off because I'm going to use it later. Now, this is the same command when we hit save that we already talked about. Now when they hit save, I'm going to get that person updated event we created of type T, right? Get event of type T and publish my payload. In this case, the payload is simply the last and first name of the person saved. Nothing complicated, I just did some string formatting on it. Okay, so we've saved, packaged up my nice little present, right? Christmas, and I'm sending it off. Now I need a subscriber. In this case, it's the status bar. My status bar has a view model. Once again, I'm asking for my event aggregator through an interface. I'm not doing anything up, right? You've never seen me type object, new object. I have not done that yet. I have my event aggregator stored off because I might use it later. In this case, I'm getting event of T, which is my person updated event we've already created. And now I'm subscribing. So I'm saying whenever this executes, this code is going to run, this method, person updated. Look at the parameter list, it's my payload. In this case, it's my string. So this is the payload that is sent with the event from the publisher. And then I'm just setting the message property of the status bar to that payload, saying payload was updated, the person's name was updated, right? So we'll see that one more time. Oh, I want to point something out, so let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so I can click either individually save, Smith Bob, he was updated, and remember our composite command as well. You can also click the composite command, and because it's just executing the commands that are already registered to it, it's still going to execute the event aggregation as well. But remember, it's going to be in the order in which it was registered, so the last person, the last payload to be passed is the last person saved, which in this case was Jeff Locke. Okay. But this allows you to communicate through your loosely coupled modules and pass objects or payloads across them.
Does this, I call it event of publisher, has a scope? So you can have a scope. Says I want to put in a scope, for example, this whole item, or maybe globally, or there is no scope.
So, if I understand you correctly, are you saying like go on the UI thread, go on this type thread?
Yes,
Like yes, you have that control. Yes, you can say where to put this on. Yeah, publish
I
this on
don't
the UI
even see
thread.
that any scope in your publish. Or
Yeah,
scope.
I don't have to worry about it in my examples. There is a.
There is overall.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head because I never have to use it.
But there is probably overall method
Yes.
is a publish scope context.
Okay.
Always make everything public.
Yeah, especially if you want to test.
Yeah.
Brian, but the same pattern could be realized just by custom class, right?
What's that?
The same event aggregator pattern could be realized by just custom class and some separate module.
No,
Why not?
because your modules do not know about each other.
Yeah, they wouldn't, but they would know about that global one. Like
Okay, but
let's say I built another module called event aggregator, my own, right? And I have methods to publish events, and I have methods to listen for events. So,
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying now. Yes, you can, but now you've now become the owner of memory management. You have to write your own week event listeners, so make sure you clean up after yourself. If you want to do that, go for it, but it's already written for you.
okay. No, I just...
Yeah, it's just like, I think MVVM
MVVM Lite has it, messaging
Yeah.
something.
I forgot what it's called. I don't know what it's called, I'm trying to use MVVM Lite, but it has the same concept. It has its own.
So this payload, if I want to persist it because I want to use it later, suppose I have an application which is a wizard application, and I did some selection and I said next. When I said next, a message with payload was sent somewhere to another module who used it, but I need it.
Okay.
Next, 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 and I need it. Maybe I'm constructing a model, and every time I do next, I need to store it. Where should I store it?
Would the build is stuck, right?
Well, it depends. It could be anywhere. You can store it in memory. Let's say, if you take that approach, you could just have another object being stored off where you're storing all this information, and then you're passing it back and forth, and you're building this and passing
Where
it back.
should this object be living?
That's up to you.
In the container, maybe.
It can live on file if you want. It can live in memory.
XML file.
Yeah,
Where?
XML. It can live in XML. It can live in memory. Static properties. I mean, it's so open what you can do with that. So, and I probably wouldn't personally do that. I wouldn't use Event Aggregator for that. I would use something else. But yeah.
Where if you would pass the person class instead of just the name, then you can really you reuse it and take a good advantage of it somewhere in the consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can file it, you can save to XML, serialize, or do something, right?
You guys tired of me talking yet?
No.
I don't know. You should see some of these. You know who you are. Okay. So there's another important concept and super cool concept in Prism. Prism provides its own navigation framework. Who here has played with that navigation framework? What do you think about it?
It's okay.
Okay, that thing rocks. Are you kidding me? It's better than what WPF provides. It's better than what Silverlight can provide. Okay, the navigation framework in Prism is very powerful. So how long do I normally have? How long does this normally go? Because I'm telling you, I can go forever. Would I have 30 more minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you want to take?
You want to take a break?
Have a break. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone stand up, take a break. Stretch it out. Stretch it out. Shake it off.
Can I make a quick announcement?
Hey, Brian, can I ask a question?
During our break?
Yeah. Yes. It will depends on your container. It depends on the region.
I'm Brian Batistic
If it's
with Preston Solutions.
it will load
And
both.
we partner with
If it's not,
vNext.
it will activate the
Put together this
latest
user
one.
group. And
Order
just
it.
wanted to get thumbs up and say thank you for coming. Thanks for coming by. And what Preston Solutions does is we're a IT staffing solutions project implementation company.
Yeah, I'm injecting these guys.
We have a lot of current openings coming up, and stuff we've been working on for a while. If you know of anybody who's looking or might be looking, we put together a quick hot list here of what job openings in the area. So please take a look. Our website's on there.
Let's
So, what would you like to do? Just want to do questions? You want to just,
Okay. I can summarize navigation
There you
to a
go.
point where you'll be, what?
And then we'll have
And
that.
have lots of questions, and I can come back for like a phase 2.
There you go.
You know, I can come back for a phase 2.
Yeah, oh, that'd be nice.
You said February is next opening?
Yes.
Let me check for February.
Okay,
I'll come back for navigation, to talk about navigation.
great.
Okay. So I'm going to run the IG Outlook thing app and kind of show you concepts of navigation. Navigation in Prism is nonlinear, right? It provides mechanisms for navigating to, back. So you have a journal, go back, go to, can't go back, can't go forward, all that stuff, right? Go to this page, whatever. I just had to, oh, I upgraded. 11.2. This will only take a second. I have to upgrade my Infragistics controls.
Now, up to this point, nothing that you've shown us has anything to do with Infragistics, right?
No, just this application that I'm about to run. I'll run the WPF version. Okay, so here's the WPF version. So, how am I talking about navigation? Okay. First thing I want to start off is your question about Infragistics controls. This example uses Infragistics controls here, with Outlook bar, and then the ribbon up top. Here. Okay, now remember when I said there's certain controls that can be designated as a region by default? Yeah, our controls aren't one of them. But you can write your own region adapter to tell this control how to adapt the views that are coming into it. And that's exactly what I did. I wrote a region adapter for this and for that. And I just said, hey Prism, here's my region adapters for these controls. So now I can use these as regions. I can inject stuff into. Okay. And I do want to show something. This is pretty cool, actually. That calendar here. Use the mill view. So there's also a concept of region behaviors, which kind of say how the region should behave and what should happen when views are injected. So in order to demonstrate that, I actually made a region behavior and an attribute that says I can add new tabs. Let's say I create a new tab for new functionality for this application. All I do is add this attribute to my view, and my tab just magically shows up. So I should have how many? Is that 5? Yeah. I should have 5 home tabs at the top. Oh, wrong one. How do you use it? Control F5?
Control break.
Oh, it's shared. It doesn't matter. It's a shared file. I just wanted to run it in WPF. You see that? So all these attributes I added, it just added those tabs. So anytime I need to add new functionality or extend this view, do something, I just add that attribute to the tab I created and puts it in there. And yes, the data context for these tabs is the exact same as the data context for that view. So all the commands that execute up here are actually the commands that exist on this view model, even though they don't know about each other. I just had to show that. That's cool. Okay, so since I can't really show off navigation, I'll just go through my list of what you can do with it. Okay, so when you implement navigation, you have to register your type object. Oh, this is impossible. I'm not going to go that in much detail. You can navigate to existing views, or you can navigate to new views. Navigation says, hey, I'm going to navigate to this name, this URI, okay? You give the framework a URI, which can be the fully qualified name of the object, like in this case, it can be IGOutlook.modules.mail.view.a. That would be the URI. And when I click on that, it will take me to that view. Now, I can also pass parameters with that URI, just like an HTML string. And parcels parameters, just like this view here. This particular view is the mail view. And every time I click on these items here, I'm passing a parameter to that URI of what the folder I clicked on is. And that's how it's showing up there. Okay, so it's URI based. And I'm saying reuse this view. Or you can say every time I click this button, give me a new instance of that view. You have control of that. So example, I come up to this top folder, all my tabs disappear, and I need a new view. But it doesn't have to be that way. I can say whenever I come back to it, give me the same view. For example, I think this one's set up that way, so if I'm on Sent, so if I go to a different module, I get a new view, but I'm pretty sure that I set this up to where if I go back, I'm going to get on that exact same view in the exact same state it was in. Let me see if I'm right. Okay, that was right. So I set it up where I say reuse this view whenever I come back to it. Give me the same one. Let me do this. Okay. So, you have basic region navigation. You can confirm and cancel navigation. So you can say, you can handle instances of points in the navigation process that says, yes, you can navigate, or hey, are you sure you want to do this? Because this is dirty, you might want to save before you go anywhere. Yeah, let me save, okay, navigate. You can cancel navigation. What else? Talk about existing views, navigation journal, talk about that. Navigation participation. So the cool thing about navigation is both the view and the view model can participate in the navigation process. Okay, so I have a view bound to a view model. Each one of those can independently handle the navigation process, hooking into, navigating away, navigating to, navigating from. Can you navigate to me? Each separately. Okay, so it's very powerful. That's about all I can get in 10 minutes.
Well, that was very good. This whole presentation, I mean, we could have a whole Saturday on this, right? Well, let's go over MVVM, MEP, and Prism next time. Let's get it all. One boot camp.
Yeah, so that's the tip of the iceberg on Prism. But as you see, Prism is really simple. It's really not complicated. It has some basic concepts, understand a little bit of ILC, some DI, some dependency injection. But once you get your head around that, it's really simple. It's really simple. Any questions? Yeah.
So how do you implement the navigation? In the module, you would have a navigation object, and within the module, you navigate for. You navigate as a separate library. And
I knew once I start going, you go, here it comes. Let's see more.
We weren't sleeping.
Okay, so the way I have this set up in this example, I have a global command. So it's a command that exists in my infrastructure project that every module can call. Okay? So, command. And I call that the navigate command. So this navigate command is only handled in my shell's view model. So right here I have my navigate command. I'm registering my command here. And then basically on my navigate, I'm taking the parameter that I'm passed, which I have a custom object that implements the iNavigation item interface. It's just a custom object that I data bind all my menu items to that provide the URI where I'm navigating to, nothing special. And then it calls region manager.request navigate. And that's all that's required. That's how you navigate. Region manager.request navigate. The region name and the path, URI path. Okay? So this is only handled in the shell. This is the only code that actually performs navigation in the shell. that makes this call, that request navigate.
How's that work? That's kind of weird.
Well, because I'm using commands and I'm data binding my items. So here, since I'm not pulling from a database, I'm just creating a collection of my navigation items, folder, I'm giving a navigation path, right? Nothing fancy. Okay, pretty cool. And then the view data binds my Outlook items tree there to that items collection. And then I have a command, which take a wild guess at what command this is. See, this is where you use a static markup extension. So you're not using magic strings. It's in my infrastructure class. Static, that's my navigate command. That's this command. Right there. Okay, so that is bound to that command. So whenever I click an item, it calls that global command I created, and the shell handles the navigation. Okay, so it's only handled in one spot.
Does this make the shell aware about the other modules?
No. No. In this case it does, because I don't want to, when I give demos, I don't want to complicate things by saying, how the hell is that wired up? Right? When there's no reference whatsoever in the demo application, you'll sit there and search for hours on how those DLLs are being loaded. So I always, my demos, I always add hard references to my modules. But in production applications, you probably won't do that. Okay? That way, if you download my source code, you can open up, oh, okay, I see how that's working. Oh, okay, here's my bootstrapper. Here's my bootstrapper. Oh, there's where he's loading the modules. Oh, this type, I get it. Right? Not, oh, directory dialog, or directory module catalog, or app config module XAML catalog, and where's the XAML file at? What's this cryptic, configuration XAML markup? What's all this stuff doing? What's this mean? So that's why I do this here. Oh, and here's my those region adapters I told you about. That's where I'm registering. Whenever you see a ribbon control or an Outlook bar, use that adapter. That's how it populates. Yeah, I need to do a part 2.
Okay, we'll do part 2. We'd love to have part 2, wouldn't we, guys? Well, thank you so very much.
You did one heck of an intro. I mean, you're getting me blushing over there. Are you kidding? Jeez. Awesome. Now, I will tell you, I can't give out the sample code I showed for the commanding and stuff, because those are actually the ones I used for my Pluralsight course. But I didn't want to use those anyways because of that weird way I was doing the MVVM, which I only did because that person asked, and I just kept building on the same example. So I'm going to rewrite them anyways. So when I rewrite them, I'll let you know. And then you can go download the royalty free, you don't have to pay for because of licensing and this weird contract I have with Pluralsight.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And then I'll let you guys know.
Everyone come see me and you will get a free week of Pluralsight videos. A whole week.
There's a lot to choose from there, too.
There is.
And they're changing all the time, boy. I mean, every company right now is changing all the time.
Okay, great. Now for our raffle. Our first raffle prize is a Net Advantage Ultimate.
Well, that's a good one.
From Guess Who?
That's a good one. I hope I get that one. I'm excited.
So go ahead and draw the first.